So now it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today. For the students in the room, Dr. Steve Garoff has had a significant impact on your undergraduate experience, even if you didn't have him as an instructor in one of your physics courses. Before coming to Carnegie Mellon in 1988, Dr. Garoff worked in industry at Exxon Research and would later use this experience in advising physics majors here at Carnegie Mellon when they had questions about the real world. Some of you may be familiar with his research here at CMU in the field of biological physics. His work on interfacial phenomena, the basics of surface coatings and adhesion, is related to the basics of surface coatings and adhesion. If that doesn't make sense to you, think about Leonard from the Big Bang Theory. His self-proclaimed similarities were actually on the local news station on Thursday evening, so you can see if you want to YouTube it, it's up there. His efforts have been shared with the scientific community in nearly 130 peer-reviewed publications. Shortly after coming to campus, Dr. Garoff became known to students for his excellence in teaching and advising. He was a founding member of the MCS Committee on Undergraduate Affairs that supports all things undergraduate here in Mellon College of Science. Think everything from new course creation to orientation programming. The committee still meets twice a month now and includes all of the advisors participating in today's ceremony. He was also integral to the creation of the new MCS Core Education, serving on multiple committees that met weekly from 2010 to 2015 to create the new core and create specific courses to support students' intellectual breadth, including Physics 2 for biologists and chemists, where some of you may have seen him wearing that sweater that you see on the screen here in front of your class. Dr. Garoff earned recognition for his incredible efforts to improve the undergraduate experience with the University Academic Advising Award in 2002 and the MCS Richard Moore Award in 2018 for his sustained contributions to education.
Before I begin my formal remarks, let me just take a moment. For about 25 years, I've had the pleasure of meeting with many students and their families if they're thinking about coming to CMU to study physics. They often ask me, what is MCS's competitive advantage? Without hesitation, I always say, give the same answer, be advising. You students and your families have been very lucky to have an extraordinary group of advisors who work tirelessly to set up educational programs that are tuned to help you and to pay attention to you. Ready to help and ready to stand back, whatever's needed. They're completely dedicated to your education and well-being. Maggie Braun, Becky Campanero, Jason D'Antonio, Kunal Ghosh, Christine Gilchrist, Ken Hovis, John Hannon, Jason Howell, and Karen Stone. May I ask you to recognize them? Some stupid traditions die hard. I hope few of you have experienced this, but there was a tradition when welcoming a new class of students to campus to say, look to your right, look to your left. One of those people will not graduate. What an excellent way to encourage students on their first day. Please put that tidbit away for a second. Complaining about the present generation of students is an age-old practice. I think this complaining is reaching new heights. You don't read. You never get off your cell phones. You're so coddled that you're incapable of doing anything for yourself. My goodness, you can't take a square root by hand. These complaints are sometimes voiced among faculty after you've given us a particularly hard time in a course. I myself never complain. This moment is falling on the floor. Even in various publications that analyze the present generation of students. I remember being a faculty member in one of the orientation breakout groups for the discussion of Randy Couch's book, The Last Lecture. I mentioned to the group that I thought Randy was rather tough on his students in one particular instance and made an unfavorable comparison to earlier generations of students. I asked if the students agreed. There was silence until the RA pointed out that I was the only person in the room who could comment on that. I said that my parents' generation is sometimes referred to as the greatest generation in America because they rose to address the life-threatening challenges of the Great Depression and World War II so valiantly. But I suggested it was the response to the challenge thrust on them, not their character as judged before the challenge. Somewhere buried in their character, they found the strength to respond to those challenges. So let's change the question about your generation. Will you have the ability to rise to the great challenges you face? A short digression, so you know my background. I've learned from CMU students for over 30 years. I was an undergraduate at another school from 1968 to 1972. Maybe we did some good stuff as a generation, but let me assure you, faculty do not think of us as dedicated scholars. I'm not quite sure how many times we shut classes down in protest, but we were clever enough to do it twice during finals. Our leisure time activities were not always of the highest intellectual value, or legal for that. So what do I see in your character? Among this group of honors students, there are, of course, students who have attained the highest academic accolades. We have students going off to the most elite graduate and professional programs, students of truly soaring intellect and academic achievement. We have students who are going to jobs with the most selective employers. These employers could choose anyone, and they're choosing you. There are those among you who have overcome great physical and emotional obstacles to get here, not just graduating, but doing honors work. There are those of you among you who have undertaken prodigious feats of organization in service to others. Donut Dash, Greek Sing, Free the Stones, to give just 3 examples. That Free the Stones thing is really lame. And if any of you would like to meet with me after, I can tell you how freed that was the Stones, not the Stones. But to see your character, do not look at these singular achievements alone. Remember when you came to CMU? For many of you, this was the first time living away from home. The dean would send out all the first-year instructors a list of all the things most of you were doing for the very first time for yourselves. Managing your time without someone harping on you, setting goals and priorities, getting to class. I was always impressed by how long the list was. You did these things. Perhaps there was some grateful along the way, but you did them. Not the trait of a pathetically coddled group. How about the pre-med? These people are doggedly persistent in the face of an unforgiving selection system, one that exerts unbearable pressures on them throughout their careers. These people are not incapable, as too often predicted. For that matter, all of you made it through the horrible admissions process to get into school. From the everyday triumphs to the crowning achievements, you're a very accomplished group. What do I see as the key traits of your character? You are passionate about what you do when you take a break from building your knowledge and skill base. You let loose your imagination in research, performance, and in service to others with stunning results. This was always true in young people, and your generation is just as strong as any other, and truly stronger in service to others. You're unfailingly polite. With rarely an exception, students approach me, even when they're mad about something in the course. They approach me courteously, not timidly. You make your point, but courteously. You're able to adapt to change at an increasing pace. Alvin Toffler, in his 1970 book Future Shock, told my generation of students life was accelerating too fast and you would not be able to psychologically adapt. Well, the acceleration has not ceased. In fact, it's increased. You adapt and maybe even thrive on it. You see new technology as new power, not a threat. You do it with such ease. You understand societies are not isolated. You're interconnected in ways as never before. This has brought you to adopt new views. You're more tolerant of differences. As most of the older parts of society haltingly move toward tolerance, I sometimes sense you just don't understand why it's so hard for us. You're collaborative. As I walk prospective students through their visits, they often ask if CMU students are competitive. I say yes with themselves, and I sometimes worry they're too tough on themselves. But the hallmark of the present CMU student community is helping one another and working together to solve problems. You communicate with others. Okay, maybe a little too much, but you do connect with others. At the 1964 World's Fair, General Motors' exhibit was a ride through the future. They spoke of some strange notion that computers, then things that could add and subtract and filled in an entire room, would somehow be on your desk at home. They darkly predicted that this technology would lead people to cut themselves off from other people. Your generation has surely laid that myth down to rest. You're acutely aware that you live in a diverse world. You know all people are not just like you. You're in contact with people all the time, networking with those who you can help and those who can help you. Challenges in the world are all around us. What new ones will rise to the level of a crisis that can no longer be ignored? We know the present challenges, we don't know what's around the corner. As the saying goes, it's not the known unknowns, but the unknown unknowns that we must be ready to address. What bothers me most, as I think about the world my grandsons will live in, we just don't seem to have the collective will to move forward. You're the perfect generation to take on these problems before they overwhelm us. Technical parts of the issues are likely much more manageable than the interpersonal. End hateful prejudice that represses, and unintentional biases that prevent segments of the population from applying their abilities and skills to solving problems. End the killing of our planet. End the tribalism that has made our political discourse pitiful on all sides. Bring us to the notion that talking to someone you disagree with is the only way forward. What better group to solve these problems? A group that never stops talking to each other, a group that collaborates, a group that tolerates, a group that knows they are not isolated in the world. You are ready and able to solve the problems that will face you. The naysayers haven't looked at you. So let's try this again. Look to your left, look to your right. These are the people who are ready and able to join you in moving the world forward. But just remember, with great power comes great responsibility. World crises are already here. You do have the character and power to solve the problems. Rise to those challenges. Thank you. Have a great weekend.